So, really briefly, you guys know Michaela Cole, the writer, producer, actress. You heard of this? So she just won an
Oh, that show.
I May Destroy You.
What is it called?
I May Destroy You.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was excellent. I highly recommend it. She's a young, I want to say possibly Nigerian British woman who I first came across a few years ago when she I think self-produced this play that was turned into a TV show called Chewing Gum. Anyway, she's become a bit of a superstar in the TV and film industry. And with I May Destroy You, she had this huge Netflix deal, notoriously walked away from, I think it was, nope, HBO. She walked away from Netflix potentially, basically got her bag, claimed what she was worth, and hopped from one screening or production service to the next. And so she won this Emmy for uh, creating I May Destroy You. And she gave this speech that was meant for writers. And she said, in this world, we're all running around, we're all on social media, we're worried about what people think of us. But writers especially need to sit down in the silence, think, right? Or don't think and see what comes to them. So she said specifically, see what comes to you in the silence. She was not talking about wellness, but have a little bit of a one-track mind. And so the obvious implication for us, or the obvious application for us, is really around eating choices and mindful eating, and understanding after we eat a meal, after we eat a snack, once we have a craving, if we can just take a moment, just pause, just sit in the silence and listen to what stories our body is telling us. Our body might say, you're too full, it's uncomfortable. And then we learn that we can actually use smaller portion sizes. Your body might say, I'm still very hungry. And then we learn that either we have room to eat larger portion sizes, or we should lean more towards, say, fiber or protein, or these foods that help us with satiety, with feeling more full. Body might say, that actually tasted kind of weird. That sugary beverage that we had might say, I'm a little activated, I'm a little anxious after eating that free sugar. Might say, I feel warm and cozy after eating that creamed carrot soup that was all plant-based. Um, so yeah, this is just a reminder, I think, of how much we can gain from not just understanding intellectually the effect that food has on us, but really using our intuition, mindful eating, and understanding through our bodies the effect that food can have on us. All right, we're moving to restaurants. Miss Bridget chose last time. Dr. Michelle, Miss Maddie, who wants to grab a restaurant? Anybody have a restaurant
I
in mind?
do.
Yes, I knew you would. Okay,
Oh
what
my
should we look
God.
at?
Portillo's.
I knew
Italian
as
beef,
soon as
extra
you
dip
said,
with
oh
hot
my
peppers.
God. Okay,
Cheese
okay,
fries.
that's hilarious.
Oh
All
my
right,
God.
this is perfect. So let me just switch us here so we can go on this journey together. Start from scratch. I'm going to Google Portillo's restaurant company, comes up. I'm going to go to their site and see if I can find some nutrition info, which of course they have to post. because they're a large chain. I think they're a large chain. They should be.
They probably don't have 100 and some stores though.
Really?
Yeah, they probably, because they're really
They might
Chicago. I mean,
not.
they're now getting outside of Chicago, but they are not. They're not. I don't know if they have 100 and some stores. I think you have. Did you say you have to?
So now I'm Googling Portillo's nutrition, because remember we said we'll go to the main website, and if we don't find it there, and there may be a tab I missed, who knows? But if we don't find it there, then I just go back into Google, I search the restaurant name, I search nutrition, and we may, okay, so Portillo's nutrition is going to come up. They're going to give me the specific site here, and it looks like they have a bunch of, yep, they've got a PDF. So this might have been just located someplace weird on their website. All right, Dr. Michelle, what are we looking for again?
The Italian beef, right there, regular sandwich.
Regular sandwich, okay.
690.
690 calories. About half are from fat here. Okay. So this doesn't take the form. This is great because these nutrition facts don't take the form of our usual nutrition label that we're used to reading. So now we get a chance to just sort of test ourselves, see how comfortable we are going through the different would-be lines, right? What we would see as rows on that nutrition label that are now actually columns. So exactly, let's look at, so we look at serving size, and it's a full sandwich is our serving size. How many calories? 690. Fat calories, 308. We look at grams of fat, but we're really interested in
Saturated.
quality of fat. Yeah, so saturated. So 14 of those 34 grams are saturated fat, which and there's no trans fat. Good. But that's interesting. That means that maybe 20 grams would be unsaturated fat. And I wonder where that's coming from. Are there
Is
like
it the bread?
olives, and the bread shouldn't have a ton of unsaturated fat outside of maybe an oil used to make the bread. Oh, there's a decent amount of oil added, right?
What's the? I
What'd
guess
you
the au
say?
jus. They have like an au jus, the juice or whatever that they cook it in.
I think maybe maybe they're using an oil that has some unsaturated fat, if we trust this. Okay. So we've got 14 grams of saturated fat. And again, we don't have our percentage daily values here. So we gotta like think through what our individual goals are for what percentage of our diet should be each macro. So if you've ever gone to a dietitian or a health coach, or had, in rare cases, a physician calculate what your ideal should be, because it varies per person, this is the time where you would do that calculation. But what we can do is sort of think about, we can think about my plate as we go through this, and that concept of, if the Italian beef sandwich, regular sandwich, is a full meal, then as we go through and we think about carbs and our, so our starch and our protein and our leafy greens, we can think about how each of those fit into our whole. Okay, so we know that fat is about half, and we know we're probably getting that fat from maybe the bread, the starch, and definitely from the meat. So that gives us a little bit of a sense that in this meal, if this is the whole meal, that probably our bread and meat are taking up half or possibly even a little bit more than half. And that's a little bit of an extrapolation here. So then we've got our saturated fat, and we said trans fat was 0, and we've got our cholesterol. Then we look at our sodium, and you guys remember what we said about sodium last week.
2,500
Yeah,
milligrams.
so 1,500 is the low sodium diet associated with that DASH diet trial.
Okay.
Plus, it's DASH plus low sodium. That's especially good for people with high blood pressure or other cardiovascular diseases. So 1237 gets us right up against that 1,500. 2,300 is our next highest sodium level. That's considered still like moderate sodium intake, not what, it's still lower than what most Americans eat every day. Okay. And then we've got our total carbs, 59 grams, which we know comes out to, anybody want to do that math in terms of calories?
About 236.
Yes, because we have 4 grams, or I'm sorry, we have 4 calories per 1 gram of carbohydrate. And so we've got about 240 here and about 240 grams of carbs out of 690. So we're working with over a third, just over a third of all the calories coming from this meal are coming from carbs and primarily starches, right? So if you think about that My Plate meal, where half the plate you want to be leafy greens, or rather non-starchy vegetables, and then a quarter of the plate you want to be lean protein. And then another quarter of the plate you want to be starches, which could include veggies or not. Then what we're seeing is that our starch category is, instead of taking up a quarter of that plate, it's really taking up close to a third of the plate. And then we saw that our saturated fat at 14 grams is taking up
Like less than half the a little, but it should be like
like 135.
It should be like 1 ounce for
right. So the saturated fat at about 135 calories out of this 690. And I'm counting saturated fat because that's our right, kind of our lower quality fat. Again, we need some saturated fat in our diets, but having food that is close to half and half saturated and unsaturated is actually a poorer fat profile and increases risk of heart disease, pro-inflammatory outcomes, etc. So that's why we focus on saturated fat. So what we're seeing is that there's certainly more fat in this meal than probably we'd like to ingest in one meal. It's certainly not balanced by non-starchy veggies, or say fiber, for example, where we've got 0 fiber here. And so the meal is essentially fat and pretty significant portion saturated fat. And then starches. So we're looking at our plate and it's basically about half fat and then about just over a third starches. Where else? And then we've got protein. So that's the other place that our carbs are coming, or that our calories are coming from. All right, so remind me, guys, when we are looking at the nutrition label and we're looking at total carbs, remember, and then you go down and look at the other categories of carbs. So you'll see fiber,
Sugar.
0 fiber here. You see sugar. They're not listing added sugars for us. They're just giving us 2 grams, but we basically know this is going to be added probably in the sauce. So 2 grams of sugar. Just thinking through, well, where else is sugar going to come from in the Italian beef sandwich? And then we've got our protein at 33 grams. And so how many calories is this protein giving us?
132.
Yep. So we're doing 4 times 33, and we've got 132. So that's what fills the rest of our plate. We've got on our my plate, instead of having that half non-starchy veggies, which you would essentially, what represents non-starchy veggies? Basically fiber. Like if you're looking at the nutrition label and trying to figure out which one of these nutrients represents non-starchy veggies, it's often fiber. And then, but instead of having that, we've got those crowded out by our half plate of fat and our rest of the plate filled by essentially a third and 2/3 of starches and proteins. So what are the takeaways here?
I mean, I would say, yeah, it's not a healthy dish to eat in without, I mean, if you want to increase the health of it, then it can't be eaten like you can't have a whole one. It has to be like maybe half, and then add a salad next to it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But most
So
people don't eat Italian beef with a salad.
that's
It's
not
usually
why you
eaten
go
with
to
fries.
Italian beef shop. So let's see. Really
Yeah.
quickly, I'm gonna run through some of our nutrition or nutrient upper limits according to the American Heart Association, according to the USDA. Again, we've talked about how ideally we're eating around, the American Heart Association says you shouldn't have more than 10% of your daily calories as saturated fat. And so that 14 grams of saturated fat times 9, because 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. We said that is our 145. Nope, 136. Oh my gosh, guys. 9 times 10 is 90, and 9 times 4 is 36. So we're talking about 126 calories from saturated fat. And so if you're eating, say, a 2,000 calorie diet, then 126 calories is right in that 5 to 10% range for saturated fat. But consider that this is the one meal, right? You still have the rest of the day to eat food. So, one takeaway is, as Dr. Michelle said, perhaps I decrease the portion size, cut this in half, cut it in thirds, give a piece to a friend. If I don't cut it in half or cut it in thirds, I commit to essentially filling most of the rest of my day with non-starchy veggies. I will have gotten a good deal of protein for the day. I will have almost reached my sodium limit for the day, depending on where my personal limits are set, coming up at 1237, right? Getting very close to that 1500 low limit for high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease, and clocking in at right about half of my limit for the day if I have the less restrictive limit of 2300. And I've gotten quite a bit of protein for the day. So this is aside from the calories being 690, this the macronutrients that this is giving me, and the micronutrient in terms of sodium, this is basically filling out all of my meals for the day in just the one meal. So what do we do when that happens? Just like you said, reduce portion size, right?
Yeah. And then the fiber doesn't keep you full because there's no fiber.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So luckily it has protein, and protein, fiber and protein are those two main nutrients that help with satiety, but people's bodies respond differently. Some people respond really well to fiber, better to fiber than to protein. And other folks respond better to protein than to fiber. So you know your body, whether you're someone who can eat meat and not feel full, because you didn't have enough fiber in the form of, say, whole grains or non-starchy veggies. Okay. Of course, those fries might add a little bit of fiber, but we don't really want the extra sodium and the saturated fat that comes with it. That'll really put us over the top. Okay.
I see why my grandfather had a heart attack. He used to love Italian beef. I have eaten a lot of Italian beef in my life.
It's so good. That's
Yeah. But yeah,
that's the trick.
I'm definitely glad that they don't sell it here. But yeah, that's definitely not, that's a, like, yeah, you shouldn't eat a whole Italian beef. And yeah.
So I mean, I think so that was our main takeaway, right? Is like, look, don't eat a whole one, or if you do, that's your day. You're not eating it every day, you're not eating it every week, you're not even eating it every month. And the rest of the day is like salads and fruit. Making sure you get those phytonutrients, all those anti-inflammatory
You need the
phytonutrients,
anti-inflammatories.
antioxidants, after all that meat, after all that saturated fat, exactly. So
Oh
again,
my
just
gosh.
making informed decisions. Um, I'm scrolling through this list because I'm kind of wondering, is there going to be anything on this list that maybe has a better profile for us?
What
And
about, like, they do, people like their burgers. They have like
okay,
char grilled burgers, but I've not ever eaten it. I've only eaten, they have salads and stuff too. They have Greek salads there.
okay, they have salads. I'm the first thing that caught my eye is this bowl. Have you ever had the Portugal Bowl?
Yeah, no, I never heard of it.
I'm trying to figure out what this even is,
I
just
think they
based on the
removed the
nutrition
bread
fact.
because the carbs dropped.
Yeah, so we've got zero carbs. So you're right, there must be no bread. And then we've got,
Just meat.
yep, we've got our fat and
but it's
our
more fat.
protein.
So
So
they
it's just
added,
meat. We've got
yeah.
more protein. The actual sandwich has 33 grams of protein, um, and 34 grams of fat. And now going down to this combo bowl, we've got 42.
42.
So combo,
Oh, it's
it's
probably the
probably
Italian
combining
sausage.
multiple meats.
It's the
Okay.
Italian sausage.
If we go, okay, let's go to Italiano bowl, because maybe that is the
I think the
breadless
classic beef.
version
It's
of your
the
regular.
classic beef is probably the regular Italian beef without the bread.
Got it. Okay. So we've got our 32 grams compared to 34 grams of fat.
What's
Our
happening with
saturated
your-
fat is pretty comparable. And then we still have just the one carb, which is probably coming from a sauce. And
The
then we've got our
sodium went down
protein.
drastically.
It did. So you know what?
It's the bread.
Sodium hides in bread. Yeah. Maybe they're using a little less sauce in this bowl. Maybe you're losing some sodium if the sauce is reduced, but bread also has a ton of sodium in it. Something to keep in mind. All right. So for anyone who is just craving that flavor of Italian beef and is okay without the bread, maybe this is an alternative. Maybe you even throw this on like a giant bed of spinach and make your version of an Italian beef sauce salad.
But that
Dr.
would be
Michelle's
so.
shaking her head
No.
like, no, that's not what you do with Italian beef.
No, no, I don't think I can. I think I'd rather not have it.
So then we've got our burgers, and
God.
I mean, I think these are just going to be classic burgers, right? Like ground beef, probably. So our fat profile looks about the same, like 35 grams of fat, a little bit less saturated fat here, a lot more cholesterol. Sodium is high again for this burger, this single
Ooh, the
burger.
double is 2,000 almost. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God.
Mm-hmm. And so I think you're right, Dr. Michelle. Probably these uh, 4-digit sodium numbers are probably coming in large part from the bread, this bun, in addition to, or the bun here in the burger, and then I guess the other type of bun in the Italian beef. Yeah, and then there's a little bit of sugar here, possibly coming from a tomato or the additional sauce that they use on the burger, maybe some ketchup, and then same amount of protein. So that's what we're dealing with. Chicken, that's a leaner meat. So chicken is one of our lean meats. Miss Bridget is shaking her head. So
Look at
to
that
me,
breaded chicken sandwich. 2,000
Milligrams of.
milligrams
a
of
sodium,
sodium, all in the
sodium.
breading.
So a breaded chicken sandwich, right, is gonna have breading around the chicken, and then it's gonna have bread that you eat the sandwich in. And so you just have even more sodium. So one of the trends that we're picking up here is beware the sodium in anything breaded, bread or breaded objects. Breaded
The grilled
foods.
mushroom is a little better.
Down
Grilled
here.
portobello sandwich.
Okay. So as we scroll down to the grilled portobello sandwich, so veggie,
Cholesterol is
vegan,
still high.
perhaps. So if
Jesus.
cholesterol is high, perhaps this is coming from butter in the bread, then in the bun, unless it's coming from oil that the mushroom is cooked in. So that's the other consideration, right? We talk about like serving size, we talk about trying to analyze our ingredients and our nutrition facts, But the reality is you go out to eat places, you don't know how they prepare food. Even the vegan meal might, if it's breaded, have a ton of extra sodium. And even if it's not breaded, may have a bunch of hidden fat. So still has 17 total grams of fat, 4 grams of saturated fat, which must be coming from bread and oil that mushrooms were cooked in. Sodium, it's not insignificant at 769, but just over half, like maybe we're looking more at 60% of the sodium that's in that was in our Italian beef, the first one we looked at. We've got a ton of carbs here and practically no fiber. So this is all starch, a little bit of sugar. So still mainly starch and then sugar. And where on earth is sugar coming from? In a mushroom sandwich, it's coming from the bread, it's coming from the sauce. And we've got our protein, which is odd because mushrooms shouldn't, a portobello even, a large portobello shouldn't give you 26 grams of protein. Perhaps some of the protein is coming from the bun. Okay, so, we got some options here. Dr. Michelle, do you think, would you be willing to do a grilled portobello sandwich?
Not at Portillo's.
Not
That's
at
not what I
Portillo's,
would
not
go
what
to
it's
Portillo's
for.
for. No,
There you go.
just no.
I like the honesty because what this is about is figuring out how to get information about nutrition facts. One, how do we find it? Number two, how do we interpret it? Number three, how do we apply it to our needs? And then four, so what do you do?
Yeah, don't.
How do you act?
Yeah,
Don't go.
kick. Woo, I'm gonna have a nightmare.
Oh no.
No, I mean, I'm grateful that I love. That's like my favorite sandwich. So that's one of the reasons why I'm glad I don't live in Chicago because they don't sell it here.
Yeah, there you go.
They don't sell it here.
There's a
And
reason.
then, I don't even want to
There's a
look at home
reason
running
you're
in
not
pizza.
here. Oh man. Look. Look, once you start to see these things differently.
Yeah, you okay.
But even going back, looking at those chicken nuggets, sometimes we think we're doing a more sort of a healthier option, getting chicken tenders and things like that. But look at the sodium amount. I mean, maybe overall fewer calories, but you never think about, look at all that cholesterol, the sodium.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think you're doing better.
True.
But just look at the buffalo wings, and we know buffalo or barbecue, we know there's a sauce, but go up. That's actually a little better.
Yeah. So the barbecue wings are we're looking
they have a lot of cholesterol though.
That's a lot of cholesterol.
More fat in the wings. So could have something to do with the way they're cooked, right? Greasy wings, fried. More fat in the wings compared to the chicken tenders. More cholesterol, which follows because then our cholesterol, this extra cholesterol probably isn't coming from the chicken, since we got chicken down here too. It's coming from the oil that it was prepared with, and the fat that's in the sauce. I don't know. Have you guys made buffalo wings at home? I remember, for a few Super Bowls, I would find some recipe. I've made the sauce at home too, and it always calls for butter. And so I would substitute out the butter for oil. But, there's a lot of fat hiding in, especially the buffalo wing sauce. But
I mean, if you go to Hooters,
it's like BBQ too.
It's a lot of butter and a lot of calories in those wings. I love them. It's just best for me.
That's why they're so good.
Away from meat. I know. Yeah.
Well, I feel like we're kind of doing an expose here on these restaurant menus, like all the things that we thought were maybe not so bad. Okay, they end up being a little bit worse. Really quick, chopped salad without dressing versus with dressing, you end up adding an extra 250 calories here, going from 550 to 800, just adding dressing on your salad. You end up adding an extra 220
220
fat
fat calories.
calories, an extra 24 grams of fat, just
Oh my
adding
gosh,
the
look at the
dressing.
Caesar salad. God.
Mm, mm. Wow. Okay. So one of these days, this is worth spending more time on. And probably in our daily text thread at some point, we will break down this with and without dressing phenomenon, because it's clear here. If you ask for it with dressing, we're losing a whole bunch of um, I would say caloric elasticity, right? You get a salad, you're trying to be healthy, 230 calories, sure, great. I probably feel really good about myself. I get it with dressing, and the calorie amount more than doubles. And probably I'm at Portillo's, so I probably get some fries or I eat my friend's fries because I got a salad after all, so I can eat some fries. And you just have no idea how
Yeah.
getting it with dressing changed the content.
I mean, if you
So,
ask for the dressing on the side and you
and
use
then put a
way
little bit
less.
on.
Yes,
Mhm.
and I asked, like, yeah, I'm like, give me dressing on the side, and I can let me decide how much of dressing I want.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Well, you know what? We did it. We got our goal check-ins in briefly. We reviewed our menu items, and quite a few here at Portillo's. Portillo's Exposed. You guys have any thoughts, questions, follow up before we end things here?
Scroll down just a bit so I could look at those salad
Yeah.
dressings and
More
sauces.
I know.
salad
I was
dressing.
looking at the giardiniera peppers. I was like, oh
Exactly.
Look at
God.
look at the house dressing,
Yeah.
340
House.
calories.
Oh my God.
Right. So house, Caesar, and ranch are our highest energy dressings. And even the Greek vinaigrette, which for some reason for me sounds like it might be healthy. I feel like we hear
Greek.
vinaigrette and
We
we
hear
think
Greek
healthy.
too.
And you hear Greek and
But
you
you
think,
know,
oh, that's
oil,
like that Mediterranean
Mediterranean.
diet.
Yeah.
Right. So, right, Greek means maybe it has a little bit more oil in it. Maybe it has some feta cheese. Maybe it has actual olives in it. These are all things that add to the fat content. Now, the olives, and if we're talking about olive oil, those are going to give you more beneficial unsaturated fats. But Portillo's is probably not using large amounts of expensive olive oil in their Greek vinaigrette. They're probably using a different oil that has a lower or a lower quality unsaturated fat content. Those oils are cheaper, so that's what you end up finding at restaurants. Okay. All right, guys. So we are here at Byte Wellness. We are growing. We are also restructuring. And so what that means is our daily wellness texts are continuing, but our weekly workshops are going to be shifting to monthly workshops. Um, Miss Michelle, Dr. Michelle, rather, Miss Bridget, Miss Maddie, we will have a conversation about what that looks like for you in terms of being able to best support you. But overall, good news for our whole community. Want to make sure that you all are still getting everything that you need from us. So you'll hear from me into the weekend. Okay, and then our next workshop will be, so our workshops will be at the end of each month, last Wednesday of every month. And so our next workshop will be that last Wednesday in October. Getting it together, guys. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. I will still be available via text, of course, and you will still get these daily wellness text messages, okay?
And you're gonna share what's going on at some point? Like you said, you're growing. So I'm trying to like.
Yeah. Well,